Hello, and welcome back to The Honest Left. So, earlier this morning, Bernie Sanders officially announced the end of his 2020 presidential campaign. Reality is, I think most people could see this coming. As much as we all want to hold out hope that he could mount some epic comeback and that we won't be left with Joe Biden, that really just wasn't the case. Although it was possible for him to come back and get the nomination, it was an extremely narrow path, and the odds were abysmal, quite honestly. So now here we are. 2016 all over again. The Democratic establishment has again rejected Bernie Sanders and his movement, and chosen a candidate that I would argue is far weaker than Hillary Clinton was. Why? Well, look, I've said this a million times. At least Hillary Clinton could talk. In one of my earlier videos a few weeks ago, before everything kind of started to fall apart, I said that I really, really, really did not want to see Donald Trump and Joe Biden in a debate together. Because oh my god, it's going to be absolutely horrible. Unbearable, unwatchable, atrocious. And now that's what we're going to get. We're going to get to see Joe Biden, the guy who, look, he's been sitting at his house for weeks. He goes on TV every once in a while. He gives little live streams every once in a while, and every single time he does, it is unbearable to watch. Just the other day, he couldn't even remember when the 1918 flu pandemic was. I think he said like 1960 something or just something so stupid. You know, just he can barely get a sentence out. And that guy is going to have to go debate Donald Trump. And look, again, as much as, I have a strong disdain for Donald Trump, his politics, and just his general rhetoric and attitude and all of those things, he is an expert debater. He's amazing at speaking and debating. That's how he became president in the first place. Joe Biden is just he's so far on the other side of the spectrum. And I've said in the past, Joe Biden, he was good in debates just not that long ago. Again, there's videos from 2016 of him talking where he's very coherent, he's forming sentences well, he's getting his point across, but since then it's a complete downfall. And it's gonna suck, guys. Look, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's going to suck, and Donald Trump is going to win in a landslide. I'm calling it right now. There is no way in hell Joe Biden has any sort of chance against Donald Trump. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at polls. Okay? I think it was something like 45% of Biden voters, or people who have voted or are going to vote for Joe Biden, said their minds were made up. Not even half the people that are planning on voting for him have their minds made up that they are definitely going to vote for Joe Biden. You know what the percent of people that are planning on voting for Donald Trump, you know what the percent of those people whose minds are made up? 80%. Double. It's double the Joe Biden percentage. I think it was under 50% too that said they were enthusiastic about Joe Biden. Not even half. People are just voting for him because mainstream media and the Democratic establishment says we should. And look, as much as I would love to believe that mainstream media is such a dying thing and that they don't have that big of an effect, on the Democratic side at least, with the Democratic base, they have a 60% trust rating. Okay, on the conservative side, the Republican base, I think it's like 30%. So the Democratic base, over half, are still buying in to mainstream media and what they are saying. And that's why we are here. But look, I want to talk about what went wrong. Where did Bernie go wrong? Where did his campaign go wrong? Because it was only January, February where it looked like it was going to be landslide victory for this guy. Like, he was just going to run away with it. And what happened? Well, obviously, there's a lot of forces that worked against him. That's easy to say, right? We had, 7 candidates just a month ago? And it got down to 2. And every single candidate that dropped out around that time endorsed Joe Biden. You're talking Andrew Yang endorsed Joe Biden. Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Joe Biden. Obviously, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg. I'm not exactly sure about Mike Bloomberg. I don't think he endorsed anybody, actually. But if he did, I'm sure it was Joe Biden. All these forces that worked against us. The Democratic establishment decided, no, we're not going to let Bernie take this. You kidding me? Bernie is against everything that the Democratic establishment loves. And they decided to reject him yet again. But look, Bernie's not perfect. He made quite a few mistakes along the way. The biggest one being he was not critical enough of Joe Biden. He would not deliver the so-called knockout punch. And there's reports of people in his campaign team that were trying as hard as they could to push him to criticize Biden more, but he wouldn't budge. And while I respect that in some way, sticking to what he believes and believing he knows what is best, obviously he was wrong. And now he's going to go campaign for Joe Biden. Which for Joe Biden is great because, he's not putting that much work in. Now he's got Bernie and all the other candidates that are going to go push for him. But it doesn't matter because Joe Biden, I've said this before, is the worst presidential candidate I've ever seen in my lifetime. The worst by far. Okay? His voting record is abysmal. His speaking is abysmal. His ideas are nothing new, nothing original. What Joe Biden is pushing is make America 2015 again. That's what he wants. He wants to go back to the so-called normalcy. Well, guess what? Normalcy is dead. Why? Because we have a global pandemic. It is wreaking havoc. It has killed all sense of normalcy for everyone around the world. And if you're going to be pushing this idea that we're going to go back to normal, how are people going to get excited about that? And look, as bad as Trump has handled this whole thing, as bad as it has been, as much as he has blundered and screwed us over and let everybody down and proved that he does not have the back of normal people, it will not matter because Joe is not offering any sense of hope for anybody. It is really just sad. That's the only feeling that I'm feeling. When I woke up, I saw the news. It was just a sense of dread, a sense of sadness. But there is hope. There is a light at the end of this tunnel. And that is the movement, the populist movement, is bigger than it has ever been before. This election, Bernie's campaign, has built the movement to go forward. My issue here is I don't know who is next. I don't know who carries the torch after Bernie Sanders as far as being a presidential option, right? Because we have people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Tulsi Gabbard, but obviously Tulsi Gabbard ran for president this time, and you're talking taking 3% of the vote, maybe. AOC's still young. I think she's barely 30. By the time the 2024 campaign comes around, she won't even be old enough to run for president yet. I believe you have to be 35. And so who's going to take that spot and lead the movement forward? I don't know. All I know is that there's a very large group of people in this country who believe in these ideas and that want to fight for normal working people the way that Bernie did. And there's hope in that. And look, I'm 23. A lot, and I mean a lot of people I know who are around my age were supporting Bernie. And the Democratic establishment essentially shit in their mouth. That's kind of a grotesque thing to say, but it's the best analogy I can think of. Because here's the thing. Of the millennial generation, almost 80% were supporting Bernie Sanders. The Democratic establishment told that 80%, we don't care. We don't care what you want. A lot of Gen Z people who are barely voting age supporting Bernie Sanders. Democratic establishment tells them, we don't care. We don't care what you want. And so my main hope here is that people do not become discouraged. People do not become deflated, and they continue to push the ideals. They continue to vote. Because young voting was very bad. That was another big reason Bernie's campaign did not do what everyone thought it was going to do. Young voting just wasn't there. It just wasn't. And I think that's because people are kind of disenfranchised by politics because they feel like their vote doesn't matter. And look, the Democratic establishment basically said, yeah, your vote doesn't matter. Because we have a media army. We have a media army. And who watches that media army? Boomers. Old people. Elderly vote was through the roof for Joe Biden. And so look, yeah, the old generation screwed us over here. But all we can do is move forward, fight harder, speak louder, and keep the ideas that he brought forth alive. And sooner or later, that group of elderly people will be gone. And it will be our time to shine. Let's do it together. Thank you for watching.